It's the style, it's the pace, all of those things, characteristics that Caitlin brings to the floor when she's healthy and can play. And, everyone wants her to get healthy.
So yeah, the Indiana Fever just destroyed the Aces. I'm surprised. I really am. I thought the Aces were going to put up a better fight in this. I thought Indy were solid. I thought Indy were really, really solid here. I don't think Indy were anything special, but I think they showed up and played their game. They played the Stephanie White style. They played the game they needed to play, and I feel like they did well. They did genuinely well, and I feel like everybody stepped up. Lexi Hull was hitting some crazy shot clock shots. Lexi ended up with 10. Sophie Cunningham went 3 of 6 from 3, or 3 of 5 from 3. All were super deep shots. I thought Raven Johnson offensively was very good. Defensively, I thought she was a bit iffy. And Tyasha Harris was really good today. Again, she's just that role player point guard. But again, it comes down to the big two, Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston. That's where this team goes, especially when Caitlin's not playing. Aaliyah Boston was letting it fly from 3, and it was going in. Kelsey Mitchell, another 27-point game. And I'm going to be real, I'll talk about this a bit later, but the way Stephanie White wants this team to play, Kelsey Mitchell could be an MVP in that system. I'm not saying that's how they'd play if Caitlin Clark were on the floor, the way she'd ideally have this team play. They're better off with Tyasha Harris at the point. It's mad to say this, but it's like saying Kyrie Irving is a better all-time basketball player than Chauncey Billups. But if you replaced Chauncey Billups with Kyrie Irving on those Pistons teams, they'd have been worse. So it feels a bit weird. Someone just said whisper what happened. Oh, like Becky Hammon with Stephanie White. I just didn't want anything to be lip-read, to be honest, but it was a really weird one. It was a really weird one where the Aces looked disinterested. Chelsea Gray looked like she didn't give a... Jackie Young was missing layups. Jewel Lloyd actually had a really good first half. Nalissa Smith struggled a little bit. Cheyenne Parker-Tyus did all right early. Brianna Turner is just terrible. And Chennedy Carter looked like she didn't want to be there. They looked disinterested. But it doesn't really matter if your opponents look disinterested. Your job is to come out and win. The Indiana Fever are now on a 3-game win streak against Vegas without Caitlin Clark. And yeah, this is a good overall result. This is kind of what you want. You want these wins. You want to be in a position where you're 12-8. So where did Indiana go here? Do they go 3rd or 4th seed? Looking at standings, 12-8, they're the 6th seed. I didn't realize Dallas were 13-8. If they go and beat LA, they're tied 4th. You just assume they're going to win that game. So they'd be tied 4th if they win, and they're a game behind the Valkyries in 3rd and 2 games behind the Aces in 2nd. Fever in a really good spot then, because the way the league parity is right now, anyone can beat anyone, so it's all just about making the playoffs and hoping you don't get a bad matchup. If you're Indiana, I think Minnesota is probably a really bad matchup for them. I'm not saying I'd want that draw. I think the Indiana Fever match up really well against Vegas without Caitlin Clark. But they'll never beat the Valkyries without Caitlin. With Caitlin, they match up pretty well against the Valks. It's a really weird one because the Indiana Fever match up really well against the Aces without Caitlin and match up worse with Caitlin. And you also have to take into account Asia Wilson wasn't there. Asia Wilson not being there, you're not going to get too bogged down in the results of this game because, again, she's the best player in the world and she wasn't out there. But yeah, even looking at the expected points, 93-74. The expected points have the Indiana Fever very comfortably winning that game by even more than they did. They won by 16 points, and it could have been, probably should have been more. I was very disappointed by the Aces today, but the Fever got the job done. They weren't flashy, they just played solid basketball, and I'm being very real here. I don't think anyone's out here pretending that watching a team play solid basketball is exciting, but they're winning. They're winning if they win these games playing solid basketball. The problem with Caitlin Clark is you cannot play solid, reactive basketball with Caitlin Clark on your team. You just can't because of how she's wired as a player, how she sees the game, the decisions she makes, unless she becomes a non-passing ISO shot chucker, which then doesn't work with Kelsey Mitchell either. So that's an interesting situation. but I'd say Vegas are probably regretting sitting A'ja Wilson out for this game. I think Vegas have looked like they don't want to be there plenty of times against the Fever. They think it's a formality, but they've actually got a losing record against the Fever without Caitlin over the last 2 years. So I don't know. But this was a good win for Indiana. It pushes them half a game ahead of the Atlanta Dream and puts them 3 games into that playoff spot. Like, they're 3 games ahead of the pack. So it looks like it's a guaranteed Indiana Fever playoff spot. But that's it. You don't want to be sitting in that playoff hunt loosely because they're 4.5 games ahead of the Mercury now. And I just have this weird feeling the Mercury are going to grab that last playoff spot. You don't want to lose 2 or 3 in a row and get dragged back toward .500. That range can be extremely tough to get out of. You want to win 26, 27 games minimum in the regular season. And now they've added perhaps their biggest statement win yet by defeating the Las Vegas Aces on the road. Tyasha Harris deserves plenty of credit for stepping into the starting point guard role during Clark's absence. She has embraced the additional responsibility, organized the offense effectively, and made smart decisions that have allowed Indiana's other stars to flourish. Of course, the game wasn't perfect for the Fever. Their free throw shooting nearly became a major problem during the first quarter. Vegas fans even started celebrating early because the arena tradition awards free pizza whenever opposing teams miss 2 consecutive free throws. Indiana left 5 points at the line in the first quarter alone, converting only 3 of 8 attempts. Aaliyah Boston struggled by making just 1 of her 4 free throws, while Kelsey Mitchell connected on only 2 of 4. Although Monique Billings cleaned up one of Boston's misses with a putback basket, the Fever simply couldn't afford to waste that many easy scoring opportunities. The final minutes before halftime also exposed a brief lapse in execution. Indiana had built a 6-point advantage with just over 2 minutes remaining, but Las Vegas answered with a 7-0 run fueled by aggressive drives and free throws. The Aces briefly regained momentum before Lexi Hull's buzzer beater rescued the Fever and preserved their 1-point halftime lead. Ultimately, though, those mistakes didn't define the night. Instead, this game highlighted Indiana's resilience, defensive intensity, balanced scoring, and growing chemistry. Even after 8 days away from competition, the Fever showed almost no signs of rust. They executed their game plan with confidence, played outstanding team basketball, and earned one of the biggest road victories of their season. Yes, the absence of Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson naturally changes the matchup, and the outcome may have looked different if both superstars had been available, but injuries are part of professional sports, and the teams still have to compete with the players on the floor. Indiana accepted that challenge and responded by dominating one of the WNBA's strongest teams from start to finish. If this performance is indication of where the Fever are heading, the rest of the league should be paying very close attention, because this team is proving they have far more than just one superstar. They have depth, confidence, defensive toughness, and multiple players capable of stepping up when the moment demands it. And if they continue playing like this once Caitlin Clark returns, the Indiana Fever could become one of the most dangerous teams in the entire WNBA.